The headlines on RT International. Vladimir Putin and the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump hold their first telephone conversation within which they agree to improve bilateral ties and discuss the Syrian crisis. A high-ranking arrest here in Russia. The Minister of Economic Development detained on accusations of bribery and extortion amid the country's ongoing fight against corruption. German police are carrying out raids across the country in a hunt for Islamic State sympathizers. We'll go live to Peter Oliver in Berlin. And International Criminal Court prosecutors say there's a reasonable basis to believe that U.S. forces committed war crimes during the intervention in Afghanistan. Your midday worldwide news headlines live from Moscow. Thanks for joining us. It's RT International. Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump vow to improve relations between Russia and America as they hold their first phone call since Trump won the presidential election. RT's Guy Chichikan has some of the details of that phone conversation.
I would love to be a fly on the wall during that conversation. What we have is a readout of the phone call from the Russian president's press office. And the readout says Vladimir Putin once again congratulated Donald Trump with his victory in the presidential election, expressed Russia's willingness to be a partner to the United States based on mutual respect and quote-unquote non-interference in each other's internal affairs. Both agreed that these are difficult times for U.S.-Russia relations, and both expressed willingness to work toward normalizing the relations. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin also agreed on the importance of joining forces to fight terrorism, which could lead to the U.S. and Russia forming a united front in Syria. Throughout the presidential race, the Washington establishment and much of the media blasted Donald Trump for saying that he would get along with the Russian president.
He has made common cause with dictators. He has basically endorsed Vladimir Putin. He praised Russia's strongman, Vladimir Putin. Donald's very praiseworthy of Vladimir Putin.
Hillary Clinton says, how dare he like Putin? How dare he? What are we doing, folks? What are we doing? And they say such bad things about Putin, and then they're supposed to negotiate with Putin? Why would he do this? If we got along with Russia, and Russia went out with us and knocked the hell out of ISIS, that's okay with me, folks.
Almost nobody expected Donald Trump to win the election, and everybody was bracing for a continuation or even worsening of very frosty relations between the U.S. and Russia under Hillary Clinton. With Donald Trump in office, it seems there is hope, specifically when it comes to U.S.-Russia relations. Although it is too early to tell, Donald Trump hasn't been sworn into office yet. We've yet to see whether the sanctions the U.S. imposed on Russia related to Ukraine will stay in place. Mr. Trump hasn't really weighed in on that yet. These past few years have done a lot of damage to U.S.-Russia relations, with both governments blaming each other for that.
RT's Guy Chichikan. We spoke with journalist and foreign policy strategist Michael Hughes, who thinks it won't be easy for Trump to improve relations, as he'll be facing a hostile Congress.
As much as Hillary Clinton was horrible for Russian relations, Barack Obama was not very good for Russian relations, but that doesn't mean the Republicans are any good, en masse are any good for Russian relations. I think Donald Trump is this unique figure that defies both parties. So yeah, the GOP in Congress, I mean, let's face it, you haven't heard, you know, Russian-friendly rhetoric out of them. If he takes an approach of removing sanctions from Russia or working with Russia very closely on helping Assad, for example, Republicans in the House and Senate, they could go on a smear campaign, and right, they can sway public support.
In the United States, Trump's victory has been met by mass demonstrations in the streets, with some branding him intolerant and warning he's a threat to constitutional freedoms. However, there's growing concern over the manner of their protests.
So here's your ideal democratic U.S. voter, ready and willing to stand up for the minority, for the equality, for basic human rights and values, among them to respect and tolerate other people's opinions which may differ from your own, like choosing Donald over Hillary, or maybe not in this case.
You voted Trump! You voted Trump! Oh, yeah! Yeah, you voted Trump! Don't vote Trump! Don't vote Trump! Don't vote Trump!
And it doesn't just end there. You can get beaten up or your property can be damaged for wearing a Trump cap, posting a Trump tweet, or holding up a Trump poster. You guessed it, having an opinion these days can be bad for your health.
It went around yesterday, someone was in a protest holding up a sign saying that Donald Trump's wife should be raped. These are the people that are saying that Trump is a misogynist, that he hates women, and holding up such a hateful sign, I think it really is an indication.
Another value in the book, the freedom of choice and the right to vote. So guys, what do you think about Trump fans?
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Uneducated.
Misguided.
Chaos.
To have democracy, you have to have an educated public.
In other words, if you don't think the way a liberal progressive Democrat does, you are a deplorable freak with no right to choose because apparently you're not educated enough.
These globalists actually don't believe that ordinary people have the same rights as them. They don't actually see them as people. They see them as sheep to be led by their wonderful globalist agenda. And frankly, they're now on the wrong side of history. And we're seeing it not just in the US and in the UK, we're seeing it all over Europe. And frankly, these people need to get with the project.
And last but not least, you respect the United States electoral system, which has been functioning perfectly for the last 229 years, at least according to your Democratic role models.
We have free and fair elections and a peaceful transfer of power. That is one of the great hallmarks of American democracy.
Our democracy depends on people knowing that their vote matters.
Free elections are the best way on earth to choose our leaders.
But when push comes to shove, or in other words, when the outcome of this machine is undesired by the status quo, all these democratic values become irrelevant.
We need to fight back against this fascist system.
Impeachment. We need to stay single for a while as a country. We don't need a president.
Not my president! Not my president! Not my president!
Ironically, the media also played a number of memes prior to the election that Trump may not accept the results of the vote and trigger another constitutional crisis. Well, now we're seeing who is protesting. People are saying silly things about, well, she won the popular vote, when they understand or should understand that America's complex and perhaps flawed electoral system chooses the president. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
The U.S. has nourished and exported democracy for so long that it's become a household brand. But now it seems this product no longer does what it says on the label, with even your average Democratic progressive liberal apparently ready to abandon principles and values that he supposedly stood up for throughout this election. I'm Miguel Francis Santiago.